Today I am really excited to share with you the brand new 2021 Merida Reacto Aero race bike, the company's latest and fourth generation aero race bike, stretching back to 2011 when it was first launched. The reason I'm really excited to share it with you, well, it's a brand new bike for a start, so always a happy day, but mainly because of the cost of this bike. This is the second cheapest model in the range, and with a Shimano Ultegra mechanical disc brake group set, costs £2,800. So it's a sort of bike that hopefully quite a few of us can entertain the prospect of owning one day. Now, you might have seen the bike launch a few days ago with all the mainstream cycling press focusing on the top end team edition, costing £9,000, which is a bike that Mark Cavendish will race this season, if there's any season in race, which looks doubtful at the moment. While that bike looks pretty awesome, it has to be said, this bike shares all the essential design cues, just lower end equipment to make it a bit more affordable. So you should get the same sense of speed and handling performance, just without massively impacting your bank balance, which is a good thing. So let's dive in, take a closer look, and as it's a lovely sunny day, we'll go for a spin and see how it performs and handles and see what it's all about. But first, make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It helps support my ambition to bring you more bike reviews like this, so make sure you click that red button down below. Right, roll the intro and we'll dive in. You could be mistaken for thinking this new bike looks identical to the old bike, and at first glance it looks very similar, but that is deliberate. The company has really tried to keep the same blueprint to silhouette, the essence of that previous bike, and bring it forward into this fourth generation bike. And because the company reckons that the previous bike was already so aero that they couldn't find massive aero gains, they really found small improvements here and there, nibbled away at the edges of what's possible with this aero bike. And I think it's also because we're clearly reaching a pinnacle of what is possible with a road bike and aerodynamics in terms of getting the best aero performance out of a road bike that resembles this double diamond frame with the UCI restrictions as they are. So it's a case of nibbling away at the edges of what's possible with the frame, the fork, all the integration as well, which goes into more detail later. So not a massive step forward, but a refinement, an evolution to try and make it as good as it can be. So it's still as aero and a little bit more aero, but they tried to make it a more all-round complete package. And it's also led by the fact that the team that the company sponsors were increasingly choosing the Reacto over the lightweight Sculptura for many stages in races like the Tour de France and the Giro. So they tried to make it a better all-round bike for those 5, 6, 7 hour stages. And also because people like you and I who buy these bikes want all that speed of a race bike, but you don't want to be beaten up after 4 or 5 hours on a saddle and have to visit a chiropractor to get your back fixed. So more comfort, retaining the aero is the kind of key headline stuff here. Let's have a closer look at how they've made it even more aero and more compliant than before.
Is it more aero? Well, of course it is. Would you expect anything else? The carbon frame and fork had been refined using CFD and verified in a wind tunnel, which is nothing unusual. However, to make the results more relevant, it used a moving leg dummy to replicate a rider, and even more real world is the examination of how the bike performs in crosswinds. Aero gains are typically all about the 0 degree yaw angle, wind coming straight at you basically, but as speeds decrease, the range of wind directions generally increases. Taking all this into consideration, Merida is claiming the new bike is a whole 1 watt faster than the model it replaces, needing just 209 watts at 45 kilometers per hour. As with all aero claims, we can only take them at face value. These aero improvements come from a new fork that integrates more cleanly into the down tube. The fork blades also sit further away from the tyre, the seat clamp is internal, and there are flush fitting through axles and new disc brake cooling fins that integrate more cleanly into fork and rear stays. The drop rear seat stays have been dropped even further and, like the fork, sit further apart from the tyre to reduce turbulent air between the moving wheel and the frame. Aero is clearly important then, but so too was combining comfort to ensure it's a nicer bike to ride and to meet the claims of being a better all-round bike.
One of the big engineering goals with this new bike was integrating all the cables in the front of the bike to reduce exposed cables, to reduce drag as much as possible and to give a bike that very modern look, and a look that many consumers are now expecting with a road bike. We've seen a lot of interest in cable routing on new bikes this year, especially that giant TCR, which caused quite a storm with its external cable routing on the mechanical versions. So on the top end bikes, we have a one-piece carbon fibre handlebar and stem, which look very flash. And usually on a company's top end bike, you get all the latest integration, no expense spared. Then as you come down the range to a more affordable bike with mechanical gear cables, you usually get a half-baked solution. But not in this case. They've really worked hard to ensure that even on a affordable bike like this, with gear cables, the cables are routed underneath the stem and straight into the frame. So the amount of cables exposed is very minimal, just underneath the handlebar there. So that's very impressive. I haven't seen many bikes with such neat cable routing on a mechanical group set like this. So cables go underneath the handlebar in the usual way, and then underneath the stem, not inside the stem, but underneath it with the plastic housing, and then straight into the frame and down to the rear derailleurs and brake hoses inside as well. So all very compact, no issues with turning it. So it looks to be a really sensible design solution to this trend demand for internal cable routing, even on a bike that doesn't cost an absolute fortune like we see with many other brands.
Through an improved carbon fibre layup, the same S-Flex seat post carried over from the previous bike, and new increased tyre clearance, so now 30mm wide tyres will fit, Merida is claiming this new bike is much smoother than the previous version. The S-Flex seat post is a really neat design. They simply cut a section out of the top of the seat post, which allows the seat post to flex under big loads. The rubber material doesn't actually contribute to that flex, it's just there to fill the space because it might look a bit odd without it. Geometry remains the same as the previous bike, but there's now a new extra small size, giving 6 sizes in total.
One of the most novel and unique features on the Reacto is a feature we've seen on previous Merida bikes, but evolved on this new Reacto, are these small braking fins on each caliper, on the fork and on the rear stays. And the idea is basically to act like a heat sink to pull heat away from the calipers to prevent the brakes overheating on long mountain descents. Now, I can't say I personally have had issues with brakes overheating, but if you do, that is a solution according to Merida. They're pretty cool. Let's talk money, and the bike here you see in front of you right now costs £2,800 here in the UK. I put all our prices in the description down below. There are 7 bikes in the range in total, starting at £2,250 and rising all the way to £9,000 for the team edition bike with all the bells and whistles. It's important to note that all the frames are essentially the same. The only change is in the carbon fibre layup. So at the top of the range, they have CF5 carbon fibre for a claimed frame weight of 965 grams. And then stepping down to this frame and the ones below it, CF3 carbon fibre and a frame weight of just over 1 kilogram or 1,000 grams. So a small weight penalty, but a big saving on your wallet. Aside from the change in carbon fibre layup, all the other frame details are the same. Get the same PF86 bottom bracket, get 12mm through axles, the same funky heat sinks for the brakes, same fork, everything the same basically. Doesn't matter how much you spend, you get the same essential frame, just a weight that changes. So you really decide how much you want to spend and how important weight is to you to decide which is right for you. As you can see, we have a Shimano Ultegra mechanical shifting hydraulic disc brake group set with a 5236 chain set and 1130 cassette on the back. So really good combination. And if you've not seen my video on why I love mechanical group sets, click the link in the card above now. So really good group sets, good shifting, good brake performance. That 5236 is ideal for the speed capability of this bike. And then moving on to the wheels, they are from Fulcrum, the Italian company. These are the Racing 800s with an alloy rim, nice deep section for maximum aero, 19mm internal width, so a little bit narrow compared to the modern trend. Tubeless radio though, which is a really good move. And then we have Continental Grand Sport race tyres in a 25mm width, which aren't tubeless. So an easy upgrade there if you prefer tubeless. And if worth repeating again, this bike has clearance for a 30mm wide tyre, so you can easily go to a 28 or a 30, and that's something I'll definitely do later in the test. So see how much comfort you get out of the bike with bigger wide tyres. The seat post, saddle and handlebars come from Merida, and then we have an FSA stem because that's all part of that internal cable routing system that they partnered with FSA for. Well, FSA actually provide an off-the-shelf package called ACR, which a manufacturer can use to use their technology rather than investing in their own design. The weight for this size medium is claimed at 8.6 kilograms, but I'll pop the actual weight up on the screen because I'll weigh it when I get home after filming. So par for the course for this sort of bike with an aero focus and a bike of this spec as well. For comparison, that giant TCR Advance I've been testing costs about £1,000 more, to carbon wheels, some other changes, but the same group set, and that weighs 7.5 kilograms for the same size frame. So about a kilo weight difference. I think the wheels would probably save a lot of weight on the bike, and a few other changes would shed you a few more grams, but it gives you some idea of where the bike fits, against some key rivals. And lastly, not that it's really important, but it is really, isn't it? It's the colour. What do you think of this blue? Personally, I think it looks absolutely fantastic, and I love the contrast with the orange logos. This shade of blue really pops in the sunlight, especially the glossy, glittery on the top tube. They've got mats on the bottom of the frame and a glitter polish on the top. I'll try and show it as best I can with the camera, but you need to see it in the flesh. Really glitters, really pops on a sunny day like today. So yes, I think Merida has done a really good job for a brand that in the past hasn't always done bikes with huge sex appeal compared to some other more flamboyant brands. So I think the bike is really on point for 2020. A really good looking bike, and I'm sure I've got some socks that complement that logo, so I'll dig this out for my next ride installment of this bike. But right, I think that's enough talking and waffling. I'll give you everything you need to know. If you have any questions, get down in the comment section below and ask away. But I'm going to put my helmet on, get a water bottle on the frame and go for a spin, and we'll talk about how it rides and handles. So let's do that. And straight away, the first impression is one of immense speed, as you'd expect from an aero race bike.
So yes, it gets up to speed really easily, and once there, maintains speed with very little effort. On my first ride of about 4 hours, I found myself regularly cruising along at 38 to 42 km per hour on flat and undulating roads. So yes, fast it certainly is. Their aero box is very clearly ticked. Comfort, as said earlier, is something Merida has focused on, and even after one ride, it's clear they have succeeded. After that speed has taken your breath away, it's a smoothness from this aero bike that really leaves a lasting impression. That's because aero bikes of old were horrible to ride, stiff and crashy over rough roads. This new Reacto though, despite only wearing 25mm wide tyres, inflated to 80 psi for my body weight, has a level of smoothness that helps to take out the sting on impacts and dampen vibrations from rough roads. It certainly reminds me of the Trek Madone SLR which I rode last year, and it's definitely smoother than the Specialized Venge I rode last year too, which has now been superseded by a Tarmac SL7 of course. So the seat post and carbon fibre lep are clearly working their magic very well, and it's pleasing that the front end matches the smoothness from those seat posts to give a balanced feel to the bike, so it's not harsh through the handbars at all. Even after my 1 4-hour ride, I didn't feel any discomfort, and I felt like I could have carried on riding for another 4 hours if I'd had enough water and food with me. And that's without going to wide tyres, which I will definitely do in a future video. It climbs more easily than the weight would suggest, thanks to the high stiffness, ensuring it's a very efficient climbing bike. It's only on steeper gradients that it falls behind a lighter bike like a giant TCR I've been riding. The steering and handling feel very calm. It's not super quick or nervous in the turns, and that makes it a relaxing bike on a longer ride. For such a fast bike, it is very easy to ride.
So there we go then, my first ride impressions on a brand new Merida Reacto. There will be a full in-depth review on my channel very soon, so make sure you hang around for that. But that's all for now, thank you for watching, see you next time. Oh, nearly forgot, need to do a free hub sound test, so let's give it a spin. Oh, that's a bit disappointing, no noise at all, but maybe you prefer a quiet free hub, let me know down in the comment section below. But that's all for now, I hope you enjoyed watching this first ride on a brand new Merida Reacto. Any questions, put them down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well, and I'll see you all again next time. Thanks for watching.